And welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. We get the crew here today, Alex, Wyatt, and myself, Ryan. And we got
I'm
games to
getting old.
talk
I made
about.
myself dizzy with that.
It's impressive. You know, what makes it even better is that we have an introduction, like, little thing. So we all, like, wave our heads around and
Oh,
stuff to the
no one
music.
sees that happen?
But people don't
Oh.
see that
But
until the last, like, there's like a second of it that I cut into. But it's not fully live, so that time you really sent it on something nobody will see. So I hope you take pleasure in that acknowledgement.
our intro is
Um,
a bop and I get lost in the sauce.
yeah, you get lost in the sauce a little bit. All right, we got a normal episode today. We got a lot of stuff to go through. We haven't done a non-topic or gameplay episode in a little bit, so we're getting in, and I want to talk about Star Fox, Wyatt, because I know you and
Yeah.
I have been spending some time with this game,
Yes.
and have a lot of thoughts on it. And I'm gonna
hmm
preface everything I say by the fact that I have generally quite liked what I've played of this game. I've done about 2 full campaigns and a variety of just like random missions in the middle, but that's about as much as I've played of it, and a little bit of the multiplayer. And Wyatt, I think you've played a fair bit more than I have.
I've done 3 full runs, and I've done a fair amount of the multiplayer. When I say fair amount, it's a fair amount in relation to how much content is in the multiplayer,
Yeah, like how much
which is
there actually is.
not
When
much.
when you say full runs, is there sort of like light branching pathways like I guess the most recent thing in my
Extreme
memory is
branching
Armored
pathways, I
Core?
would say.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
Extreme branches. So the structure of Star Fox, so this is a remake of the original game. The
Mhm.
structure of both that game and this game is that you have missions, and depending on what you do in each mission, that will unlock different sets of next missions. For you to move to eventually beat the final boss and like win the campaign.
Yeah.
Um, the big things this one adds is there's tons more cutscenes, a lot of really good dialogue to listen to. Like the visuals are obviously crazy compared to the original. So there's a ton of stuff in this that feels very new and very fresh. But overall, it is still the same structure as the original game,
Yeah.
which is just, there's not a lot that's comparable to it because it's not a full run of Star Fox can probably be done in like 45 minutes if you really know what you're doing.
Oh my God.
I would say most of the time it takes closer to 2 hours because you're gonna fail missions and you're gonna like things will be difficult. It's a hard game.
It's a harder game than I was expecting.
And to be fair, there's difficulty settings here, so you can like tone it down a little bit if you don't want to play at the original difficulty. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, like my first campaign, I made it to the final boss section, and then I chose a route that I did not know was the hard route, and
Oh.
could not do it. I straight up could not do that mission as my first attempt at playing Star Fox. I was like, I abandoned that campaign and then started a new one, and made
I
it
had
all
a
the
Oh
way through the
shit.
very
second one.
I had a
But
very similar experience to that. I found out after the fact, because I've never played the original Star Fox N64 version. I've played a little bit of the. Oh, that's not true. I played maybe like the first 2 missions on the N64, but
mhm,
beyond that, really not that much experience. But I didn't know until I finished my first run, and I was like, that was really hard. Why was that
yeah.
so hard? I went back and I realized every branching choice that I made or whatever branching decision could have been made, I always made the decision that put me on the hardest
Oh
levels
my
on
God.
my first run.
You have
Like
entirely done it to yourself.
basically all of the planets and locations in like the top part of the map are the from what I understand like the hardest
Yes.
locations.
Was there anything indicating that when you made the choice?
No. Well, once. There's the last choice that you make at the very end. They say, "Oh, this is going to be a lot harder." And I was like, "Okay." But I feel like that's the true ending. so
I was gonna
I
say, is it a thing where it's like, okay, you do all the hardest stuff and that's the true ending
well,
type
it's like
deal?
there are 2 endings, and they're both like there's not an ending that's like bad per se. It's still like you defeated Andros, there's fanfare, but in the non-true ending, it's like they kind of tease that maybe Andros is still alive, or no, that he's definitely still alive. And Fox is like, I don't know, I don't think we're finished here yet. Whereas in the good ending, Andros is completely dead. And there's also another thing that
And
pops
also,
up.
I'm gonna say spoilers, but this is a like 25-year-old game, so
Fair enough. Basically, the other thing with the true ending is that it's either a vision or it's kind of unclear, but you see a vision of your long dead dad kind of guiding you out of the like exploding space station at the end. It's probably just a vision, although
who knows?
I have no idea.
Who knows? But yeah, the crazy thing with this one is that the actual like cut scenery going on here is of a degree that is like, I would say it is far above what I was expecting, even with the like directs and stuff setting the stage.
There's
the
some
like mission
genuinely
introductions are
gorgeous.
crazy.
There's some genuinely gorgeous shots. I remember going into the final boss to fight Andros. You're in that space station. You're flying. It's like a really wide shot. You're flying from left to right, and there's just like a giant shaft of light that's coming in, but you're like flying out of the shaft of light into the darkness. And I was like, this is a gorgeous shot. This is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've already talked about character designs a little bit, so I'm just gonna. I think as I played the game more, my brain just kind of adjusted to it, and it really doesn't bother me that much. I still don't love their feet, like the kind of the lower half where it's like Fox
See,
has
the great
like kind
thing,
of hind
you don't
legs.
really have to look at their lower half that often.
No, it doesn't matter.
They're
It doesn't
generally
matter.
face only.
I was gonna say, when have you ever seen Fox's feet?
Well, you do in these new cutscenes a little bit more, at least.
Yeah, there's like cutscenes of them walking around on the ship.
Yeah.
But still, for
But
the most part, it is top up or like waist
But
up.
I really don't. Their designs don't bother me. In fact, I think some of them are kind of cool. People don't like Falco. I think Falco's the coolest.
Yeah, I actually think Falco
on this video.
looks really good for the most part. Yeah, there's lots of really funky stuff here because the root system, so you like top is hard, middle is easy, bottom is middle is medium, and easy is the bottom route. But it actually is like not 1-to-1, especially for the easy and medium. They kind of flip between the two. And many of the missions change based on what you did in the prior missions. So for a good example of this is like your wingmen have health bars and stuff, and if
You have to protect them.
don't protect them, they get knocked out of the next mission. And the dialogue in those missions changes to reflect that and stuff. It'll change the next mission where they're like, I remember the one I got to the end and I made it through, but Falco did not make it to the end, and then he has a thing like, I hate that I'm gonna miss the final boss.
Oh.
And so you get cool dialogue like that, depending on things that happen. And there's also things that like seem to actually affect what is going on in the mission. I've had a few things where it seems like doing really well or really poorly means certain like resupplies and stuff do or don't happen. In missions, there's lots of like variety here.
There's entire boss fights that you can miss. There's a mission where you're on the Landmaster, which is like a tank,
Yeah.
and you're chasing after a train, and your goal is you have to
Train
hit,
level?
you don't go on top of the train, unfortunately, but it is a train
I
level,
did try.
and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. But you have to hit these. It's like 7 or 8 switches in order to switch the track of the train. And if you successfully switch the track, the level just ends, and you got your objective successfully. But
And you get the
if
awesome
don't hit
cutscene
all
of the
7
train slamming into the like manufacturing facility.
Yeah,
Six out.
it was fucking awesome. It was fucking awesome. But if you fail to hit all of the switches, then there's a boss that comes out of the back of the train and starts attacking you. So like there are entire boss fights that you can just miss in a run if you don't do all of the like main objectives or whatever side objectives.
Or that in that case in particular, it's a reward for you missed the boss because you did really well. And move on, and that affects the difficulty of later missions, because if you slam the train into the manufacturing place, you do a like crippling blow to Andros's manufacturing. If you don't, then you damaged it, but not as much.
Which is a really cool system in theory. I just wish some of it was communicated better. I guess
I'm
some
gonna
of
have a
it is kind of
spicy take
secret.
here, Wyatt, and that
Okay.
I don't think it should be communicated better. I generally think with Star Fox, I like, because I did that first run that I did not know I was doing the hard the whole time, failed, went back, replayed it, and got fully different stuff in almost every mission. Because the first run, what I hadn't realized is I'd done Corneria kind of poorly and got hit a few times, which meant there was dialogue later on about like how I had not been doing super well in terms of like property damage, basically. And then
I guess let me correct my
rerunning
statement.
it,
I think
that didn't appear. It was great.
I think some things should be communicated clearly, but I do like that there's a fair amount of the objectives that are kind of more secret. I think there should just a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I agree where like some things you didn't even know were a side objective until you shot it or something, and you're like, wait a minute, what is that? Which was pretty cool. It's kind of frustrating talking about a game like this because the issues that I run into are in a way negated by the fact that this is a game that came from the N64. So it's like,
but it's also
almost
like
not
you're
even...
paying $50 for this game, right?
I do want to talk about the value,
it's
I
really
guess, like,
interesting.
The sticker price that this has for what you're getting, I think, is interesting. But it is like it's like there are issues that I have, but it's like, yeah, I mean, this is a reskinned N64 game, so it's like, you know, like what's even the point? But I do think it's worth noting that if you are not used to playing a Star Fox game, the controls and the camera will be a problem. At least it was for me for a while. And even then, I feel like I'm still not fully adjusted to it yet. I've kind of moved on to other things because I think I've had my fill. I'll probably come back to this one a fair bit just because there are a lot of different runs you can do, but the camera and the controls were such a learning curve for me that there were many times where I just felt frustrated. Because the game really just kind of throws you into it.
It really does. Like, again, that's why I did that first run and didn't know I was on hard and failed. Because, like, this is I don't want to say it's an incredibly difficult game, because you can get really good. And if you you're probably not going to have any trouble whatsoever. I put it in kind of the same territory as, like, no one here is saying this game is a Souls-like, but it is comparable in the terms of like what the difficulty feels like to me as a Souls-like, where you kind of need, once you start like understanding the game better and like the patterns of enemies and the attacks, it feels much easier. But if you aren't someone who likes spending that amount of time like recognizing the stages and redoing things to understand what they behave like and like what you can do about them, it's gonna feel more difficult than it should. Thankfully there's actual difficulty options here as well. It's not just the roots that determine difficulty, so you can mitigate that to a degree or even make it more hard if you want to do even more challenging runs. But yeah, it's really interesting as a structure. I think if I were younger and I had picked this up at $50, I would probably have been a little disappointed for the value here. Yeah. With where I am now, I actually really needed kind of an arcade game that I can pick up and put down, because that's the great thing about this, is like there's zero progression, zero anything like that. It is all one campaign through line. This is a great pick up and play game where if you have like 10 minutes to do a single stage, that's a perfect amount of time. So you just boot it up, do a run of a stage, put it down. And it's a great, like, I have a very small amount of time that I need to just fill. Like, because I was mostly playing this, I literally picked up my physical copy of this on the way to the airport for a trip. And so I managed to download the day one patch at the airport and then play this throughout a vacation, and it was a perfect like thing for when I was waiting for just like the next thing, for like con events and stuff. And so yeah, it was super fun to fill specifically that, and I actually think I'm probably going to keep playing this for a while and get more time out of it than I had expected, because I'd kind of thought that I would pick this up mostly to be a travel game and not really get into it, but the amount of like time I've spent into some of the just campaign bits here is more than I expected. Yeah.
I agree with that on like a top level.
Yeah.
I had such a hard time with the camera because if you didn't know, this game is in third person and it's also in first person. You can switch between the two.
Which I didn't know until you told me. I had not tried to switch, and I actually think, at least for me, it's much easier in first person. Bizarrely.
For me, both camera angles have issues that I find really frustrating.
Yeah.
And so the solution for me is to like switch between the two on the fly, which can get very disorienting very quickly.
I can imagine.
Because here's the thing, in third person, you're on rails, and so you're just kind of moving around the screen, but you're also moving where your cursor's aiming. Moving and aiming are locked here. And my problem is that it's less that you're moving where you're shooting, and more I feel like where my crosshair
it's hard
is
to aim where you're
actually
shooting.
Firing.
And to my understanding from playing this, what it basically is that wherever you move your control stick, that is where you're shooting that instant. Like you can change your shooting angle really, really quickly, but your ship will start like aligning itself to be in a line with wherever you put it. So it's like a weird delayed disconnect with where the moving is related to the shooting, and that it makes it really difficult in some sequences to like keep a handle on what's happening. Especially because like your spatial positioning matters a lot, and there's a few areas where it's a little bit more frustrating than others, I would say. Did you do the solar mission, Wyatt?
I think I've done every planet. So
Okay.
yes, I've done the
Bizarrely to me, solar was by far the most annoying mission in the game, which is crazy because it's
100%.
not one of the hard missions. Solar
What
is
are you
not meant to
doing?
be one of the hard missions. It's so this is like the cool planet where you're like riding around on you like upgrade your R-wing shields to be able to withstand the heat of a sun for a brief moment, so your shield is constantly draining and you have to refill it as you're going through. Like a super cool mission premise as you're like racing a sea of lava essentially. But there were these things, and in the N64 version, these are like hard vertical like polygons, so it's easier to tell that they are a thing you need to dodge, but there's like solar flares happening that you have to dodge. In this version, they're super transparent, and they land at weird angles, and so they're really hard to dodge effectively, because it just feels like you don't have the same amount of time that you would have had on the N64 version, because the art asset for it, like, it looks gorgeous, but it's far less readable. And so your shield is draining. You're getting hit by these things if you're not doing a perfect job of dodging them. And in the attempt to dodge them and stuff, you're taking more damage. And so your shield just gets lower and lower. And you start running out of things to refill it with as you go through. And then the actual boss is also very hard to read.
Yes.
Because the boss, like, at least every time I got to that boss, I was like at half shield at the most. I don't think I ever started that boss with a full shield, because there's an intense sequence right before it. And you can only refill your shields in that boss fight by shooting the rocks that it will like shoot at you, but the rocks, it's really hard to tell how close they are to your ship, so you don't know when you need to move to not get hit by them, or if you can shoot them in time.
Was it easier in the original, do you think?
I don't know. I think it is just hard. The thing that I actually, when I beat this and like got far more used to it, was my approach was just literally like sit in the direct line of fire and shoot the rocks instead of trying to dodge, and you'll just destroy the rocks.
How exciting!
Which I do think is fun. Like, it's a cool thing to go like, oh, instead of dodging the attack, I'm just gonna shoot the entire attack out of the air. Is cool, but it's also
you
very
don't
hard
have like
to
an ammo economy that you need to be worried about with that.
No. Yeah, Star Fox is just blast it. Yeah, you got your charge shots that will like track things and act kind of like a missile, and then you've got your regular shots that you can just spam press. And then you have bombs and stuff as well, but yeah, like certain things just end up feeling really difficult in this. Particular to me, that solar mission, especially the like solar flares specifically, are just harder to read.
How did you feel about the because for anyone that doesn't know, it is on rails, but there are sections where you're in what's called all-terrain mode, where you are flying in 360 degrees.
Fox will go like, activate all range.
Yeah, and then you're kind of in an arena. To me, that actually felt way better. And I know that we have kind of differing opinions on this.
So, well,
but
I agree with you that it feels good. I'm not saying, I just kind of still like the on rails. I think just because it's less of what I've played before, if that makes sense, right? Not because I necessarily think it controls meaningfully better.
During the all-terrain missions, the two that come to mind, because one of the first ones you do is the first boss, and that felt
Yes.
perfectly fine to me. You're using all-terrain to kind of get behind him to get his weak spot, which I thought felt pretty good. My thing is when you're fighting Star Wolf, particularly on the second one, it feels like they just straight up cheat sometimes. Like there are times where they're flying above the screen, not to do like a somersault or anything, but they're just kind of flying
They can fly in
above
like a way that you can't. Yeah.
and especially when you're doing like the hardest run and you're trying to get as few like continues as possible, and you're trying to get into the final boss while keeping as much of your upgrades as possible, it gets very annoying when it feels like they just straight up cheat, because in theory I like the dogfights in all-terrain mode more.
Yeah. It's interesting because I actually liked. I've only done one of the Star Wolf fights because I think I didn't do the route that has the other, like the
There's two
earlier
of them.
one that you can find. I've primarily gone the like upper route that avoids that area. And so when I did the fight, I think it was very hard the first time, but it was actually really enjoyable the second time when I kind of figured out what was going on and like how to handle it. The thing that I think is that the all range mode, Star Fox is like the amount of damage you can take and the amount of damage other things take, to me, is geared for the on rails, where it's like you shoot and you do damage and you destroy thing really quickly, and you get shot and destroyed really quickly if you're taking hits.
Right.
The all range mode, I think there just isn't maybe it needs like a UI element, like a radar or something that is more effective at telling you when something is on your tail. But it feels like you have way less of an ability to actually read what is a threat to you. And also, like, those missions still have your co-pilot, like your wingmans, saying they need help and stuff, and it's so much harder to figure out where they are in those missions, and the amount of time to react to those is pretty tight. To the point where, like, I think they were often tighter reactions in the all-range mode than they are in the on-rails segments, which is very strange to me, because it's much harder in all-range mode to react to that than it is in the regular segments, because they're directly in your field of view. But yeah, I think it becomes a little bit harder to handle. It's also that I'm just a huge Ace Combat fan and probably like Project Wingman fan, so I've played a lot of like dog fighting, plane-based shooting games before, and I think the all-range mode here is like 50% of the way to where it needs to be to feel as satisfying as those games. Not to say it feels bad, but
in the total package of it mostly being a rail shooter, it's more like justified, I would say.
I think it is, but it's not like I would not want to see this be the main mode, because I don't think they would do it well enough.
Think they could. I think they could tighten it up enough in a way where I would like to see it be the main mode. Like my wish for like a new Star Fox game, not another remake or anything like that, but a new one would be mostly all terrain, or not mostly, but I would say like maybe 60% all terrain with the kind of on rails sections as side missions and connecting the like all terrain arenas together. Because I think, again, we're talking about a game that was made for the N64. I think if they made an all terrain mode today, it could feel really good. Especially if they just kind of use a lot of the assets that they have here, they could make a newer Star Fox game that feels really, really good. And that's what I would want. But I understand that Star Fox, it's kind of a on rails thing. It's just kind of its thing.
I don't know. I can see the all range mode. I think the all range mode being a thing would be more fitting in one of the games that had some on foot segments, like Assault or Adventure. Because then it feels more like a way. It almost feels like the my reference would be Kingdom Hearts Gummy Ship, which at least in some of the games is like a on rails thing, but in some you can like fly around and do finding, and it's a way to kind of like move you between missions and have fun mini games along the way. And I think that would work better in all range, but I think like my ideal new Star Fox game at this point, if they're to do a new one, I think is to do an on rails one and just take the number of branches to like 11. Just dial up all of the
Sure.
different things, like make it super variable as to what's going on.
I'd be into that too.
And maybe
I
even
also
like
think
structure it
that-
like a roguelike more than like
Well, it's funny you say that, Ryan, because I've been deceiving you. While we've been talking, I've been playing Whisker Squadron.
Well, you see why I knew
myself-
that because I have your Steam and it says you're playing Whisker Squadron.
Oh, I always have it on invisible.
You're not very
Damn.
sneaky.
Well,
You weren't
and
sneaky
the reason
this
I'm playing
time.
it, the reason I'm playing it right now is because I was thinking to myself, I've actually played a fair amount of Whisker Squadron before I ever played a Star Fox game, and the on rails part in aspect of Whisker Squadron, if you don't know, it's a roguelike take
Yeah.
on like the kind of on rails shooter. It's very Star Fox inspired. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have an issue with like the camera and everything. What was the difference? The difference is your ship does not block your fucking crosshair, and it's not the confusing crosshair in Star Fox where it's like you have one that's kind of pointed in front of your
Yeah.
ship, and then one that's like
It's
further
not the like
out.
weird 3D crosshair.
It's just in Whisker Squadron. It's just this is your crosshair, and this is where you're gonna shoot.
And
We're not-
the thing
there's
I
no
want to add
bullshit.
on to this, White, is the Star Fox crosshair behaves like the Whisker crosshair, and that it is just the only thing that matters is the endpoint. The middle point doesn't actually mean anything because it's gonna shoot directly where you're pointing regardless. It just looks confusing.
If you say so, I just have. It's weird, and maybe it's more level design than it is with the crosshair. But I just have a really hard time lining up my shots. And so I wondered if that was part of the problem.
So
It's just how
to
the
me,
shots
the
are
problem
aligned.
was that I was undercorrecting a lot of the time because I assumed that like the middle bit was where it would end up hitting, and that wasn't the case. Like I had to you just gotta swing it directly to what you're shooting at, and that will almost definitely be better than trying to cut the like line that they show you, which is confusing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I totally see what you mean about that being
I do think
a better camera angle or more usable
I do think
one.
the other thing that kind of gets me is and this is present in Whisker Squadron, but I would argue that it's to a much more manageable degree because you're always flying forward. You are, even if you move your crosshair to the left, it's still pulling your crosshair back to center a little bit
Yeah.
because you're always flying forward. So it's like you move it left and then it kind of snaps back a little bit, not entirely, but enough to where it feels like you're kind of fighting with the crosshair a little bit.
Mhm.
And I didn't remember at the time if it was actually in Whisker Squadron. Going back to play it right now, it is here, but it's just far more minimal. It doesn't.
Yeah, I
it
think it's
doesn't
because like
nearly-
Star Fox has it. Your input is technically where the ship is moving, not where you're shooting.
But you
But-
said the ship moving is delayed compared to where you're.
Exactly. So there's another thing with this that I was going to mention, in that I play tons of flight games, and normally when I play a game, I don't use inverted controls. I use just normal like push up on control stick looks up, push down looks down. Flight games, I almost always do inverted controls because it mimics the actual, like when you're using a flight stick or something, you pull back or pull up, and that will make you go up as you pull away. So that would be the down motion on a controller. And if you like pull forward, that's a nosedive, or push forward, that's a nosedive. And so it would be the forward motion on a controller. And I will almost always do that on a flight-based game. I had it that way for the first run of this game. Was like, this is not working. Flipped it around, and it's so much better. I think because it just is much easier to equate the stick movement with the crosshair than with the ship itself.
Right.
And it seems to be just generally more readable as to what's happening, like easier to aim.
Right. I think
But yeah,
all of this is to
it's
say,
a funky scenario.
yeah, all of this is to say, if these things don't bother you because you grew up with the original, or it just doesn't
Yeah.
bother you in general, I think that's great. There were times where I found the groove and I really was enjoying myself, but it just often felt like I was fighting with the controls more than I wanted to. And it's just something where I kind of shrug because it's like it's a game from the N64 that had a controller with 3 handles and 1 fucking thumbstick. Like
Oh, that's
you know,
right.
what are you gonna do? You know, like there's not much you can really say other than I really hope this gets tightened up and is developed with a controller that has a more, standard controller in the future. Because I don't hate it. It's just I think because of its age, I have a hard time getting into the funky controls. But I'm
the groove
really
is a
excited.
harder to find if you're more used to modern stuff, for sure.
But I'm really excited for a modern Star Fox game where I'm sure a lot of these controls will be tightened up.
Yeah, do you think another one's going to be happening soon? Is that?
I feel like this was testing the waters for sure.
Oh yeah. Almost any remake or remaster, re-release, whatever that you see is testing the waters to see what kind of fan base it has or what kind of fan base it develops over time.
Yeah.
That's almost always the case. Now, in Nintendo's case, they've been doing this with Star Fox for the last 4 or 5 entries because they keep
this is the weird one.
Releasing Star Fox games.
They keep redoing the same thing.
They keep not releasing Star Fox games after they test the waters, or it's Star Fox 0 and they didn't want to test the waters after that.
Yeah, I think the thing with this one though is that I do really think it is. I was very skeptical of a Star Fox remake of the N64 version being a necessary thing. I do think it's really worth picking up if you're into the idea of it. I think they have done enough here to make it feel really special. Just because the whole presentation is, it almost turns it into a shot through movie in terms of how the campaign flows. Because you're going immediately from briefing to action to briefing to action, and you're never cutting out of that back into a menu as long as you're traveling. Because your really route selection is a hologram menu that they're looking at, so you have it's very seamless.
It's really well paced in that regard. I think everything that Velen did in terms of the presentation and just the entire package in general, I think they did a great job. There's obviously only so much you can do with the gameplay when it's a glorified remaster, but or not glorified, but a really really worked on remaster, I'll say. But I think they did a fantastic job, and if Nintendo wanted to give them the keys to a new Star Fox game, I think they've
I feel like they'd kill it.
Oh yeah.
And I think they would probably be able to do a pretty good all range mode because we haven't talked about the multiplayer yet, and I have thoughts on the multiplayer. I'm sure Wyatt, you do as well.
I heard you guys playing some of that. That is, I mean, it sounded like trying to get into a fighting game that's been out for years.
My take on the multiplayer is that Star Fox is tuned for the on-rails segments, and it's a really fast time to kill in multiplayer. And it's so fast that too many times you just can't see what's happening. Because, this is the thing, the all-range camera angle is kind of tight around your ship, and so you just don't have a lot of ways to, check behind you.
Did you try using the third camera angle that's available in all-range mode?
I did not mess around with it yet, so I'll have to look.
Because there's two. There's the standard third-person camera that you get in when you're on rails. There's first-person, and then there's a much, much, much wider third-person mode when you're.
I definitely should have the much wider one because that probably helps. But
because I didn't have the same issues with the tightness that you did, probably because I was using that very wide third-person camera.
Yeah, I would still say it's I think the issue of getting shot from behind and not seeing what happens would still exist.
It still does exist, but in terms of navigating the environment and stuff, I think it does make it significantly easier, which is why I didn't have as much of an issue with it as you did.
Which I think for the multiplayer specifically, the problem is just the time to kill to me, where it feels like I think everything needs to be lengthened so that you can actually have a dogfight and have a sequence of cool things happening. And the multiplayer has some really cool stuff. The game modes are very interesting. You've got a capture the point, more King of the Hilly style mode. You've got a capture the flag mode, and then you have a kill bandits and take their thing and move it back, and then you've got straight dogfighting. So there's good variety between the three maps that they have. The maps look really cool. I think they're big enough. It didn't feel like it was restrictive. It really is just.
How can you tell how big a map feels if you're in space most of the time? I feel
it's on a planet's surface.
One of them is in space. Okay. Yeah, one of them's in space. So it's mostly just distance You can still track the distance pretty easily.
Plus, they have a good amount of debris in the one mission that's all in space. They have a good amount of debris on the edge of the map. There's usually like some sort of like hologram looking thing that tells you like, hey, you're reaching the edge. Yeah.
It's pretty clear.
I think this is an example of like they took what they were given and made something really cool, but they probably weren't allowed to go in and change the values of anything. Like, I agree, the time to kill is way too fast. Especially because it takes so long to get back in. It's like a 5 or 6 second
it's
wait,
a lengthy
when you die really quickly
respawn.
feels really long. But they probably, I don't know if they were allowed to go in and change the values of those things. Because I feel like they probably would have if they had more control over the project rather than it just being a remake.
I mean, I wonder, because to me it feels similar to Splatoon. Like, it kind of feels like it went for the Splatoon time to kill, which I think works great in Splatoon. But Splatoon is also like, you can be a lot more tactical in that game because of the way the maps are designed in order to like avoid enemies or sneak up behind them, and like you have a lot more routes, and then the respawn is super quick. You like launch out of the cannon almost immediately, so you've got a lot of ways in Splatoon to mitigate the amount of time that you're losing. Whereas in like Star Fox, it really was like the first match, and granted this is the first match in any multiplayer game, you should expect this to happen, but I spent, I think, half of that match just sitting there because I instantly would spawn, someone would come through the teleporter behind your spawn, and then shoot you and you die. That was like my first match experience, and I was like, this is not great.
Yeah, I would say the thing that feels the most like it was not like at all balanced for like online multiplayer are the maneuvers and the ways that you can avoid getting hit from behind. Because you have a somersault that just kind of, you do a flip and then you keep flying in the same direction, and then there's one where you flip and fly in the opposite direction. Works totally fine in a single player environment, but if you're in a multiplayer environment, you have people that will know exactly the amount of speed that you gain from doing that, know the exact angle that you're going to be flying at, and will exploit that.
Yeah, and it also locks you into that animation, so you can't like go out of it to then fly to the side. You are stuck in a full loop or a full back turn.
If you're in an animation that's locked like that in a multiplayer game, they will abuse it.
It's also,
it just
to me, was not very clear if barrel rolling worked the same way in multiplayer.
Because it doesn't matter, because the time to kill is so fast, and you can't predict if there's shots coming in behind you. You kind of just have to know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, part of this, I think, feels like a UI issue of if we could have like an alert that you are being targeted or are in the sights of someone behind you. That would help.
Like an incoming shot indicator. Yeah.
I think it would help a bit. I do think there are bits of the multiplayer that are super cool. Like the power-ups are really fun because they're pretty dramatic and they just change what your like charge shot or your bomb button does, and those are very cool. And you get like a crazy laser beam is one that gave you swarms of missiles, which is awesome. So like there's lots of fun stuff in there.
And I would say in general it's well designed. I really like the maps. There's a lot of good moments where you're like flying under stone arches, or you're flying underneath like a rail system, and you can kind of somersault around it for multiple upgrades. The modes are cool, kind of like capturing a point while dogfighting everyone, or like shooting, dodging meteorites that are coming down from the sky, but then having to shoot them to pick up samples. Like all of that's well made. Again, it feels like they did the best that they could while having to stick to the same damage and health values of the original game. So it's like, we're just going to make good multiplayer based around player stats that are a bit whack.
But we also just don't know if they could have changed it, right? They totally, they weren't locked to that, it makes the decision odd. And like maybe it'll get some updates and like balance patches and stuff as it goes on, but it does make me think that like I think Velen really could knock it out of the park in the future with a new thing. We talked a lot about what single player Star Fox sequels could look like, but I honestly think like with the cool things they have in this mode, they could totally do a multiplayer Star Fox that is like primarily multiplayer and have it be kind of like a Splatoon like space dogfighting game.
I mean, having your single player game and your multiplayer game wrapped in one, that would be the ultimate.
Yeah, what I would want is both of those things, right? Like slam them together, and then you've got your $80 Star Fox game or whatever Nintendo wants to do with it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of lot of fun stuff in Star Fox, a lot of frustrating stuff. If you are a fan of Star Fox, it's probably worth picking up. If you think you might be, I think it's probably worth picking up as well. But if you don't like arcade games, this isn't going to change your mind.
If you're someone who can adjust to janky old controls from games from the 90s or early 2000s, then I don't think that's going to...
And I would even say, like, I don't think the controls in this game are janky. I think they are just dated. Like, there's a difference between jank and dated to me, and that jank is unpredictable. Like, I know what doing things will do in this game after having played it. Like, I think Alex's fighting game comparison is actually really apt here, where it feels like if you have the tolerance for learning the controls of a fighting game, you will also have the tolerance for learning the controls of Star Fox. And I think Star Fox's controls are easier to learn than a fighting game's for the most part. But it's a similar level of, like, the game will do things, and you'll just be like, what am I supposed to do to that? And you just kind of have to try buttons. That generally seems to be the process sometimes.
And with how short you said the game generally is, I don't think that sounds like too much of a problem.
To be clear, it's short because it's meant to be replayed. Like, you're meant to run through this a bunch of times to see different outcomes and different cutscenes, which is part of why I like all the cutscenes, because they kind of feel like a reward for finding new things. Like, there are different areas you can go to, and you get a different variant of the cutscene. Because one of the major things that will change between missions, based on the performance of your last mission and what you've done before, is what the cutscene says. So, like, you'll get different hologram messages from General Pepper as he's, like, telling you what's going on based on how you did in the last mission, and stuff like that, where he'll be like, because you destroyed the base and the train planet, you have this bonus thing and did really well. Good job, Star Fox. Or you'll get, that was really dodgy, Star Fox, please do better.
Star Fox, you were flying like shit out there. What happened? What's going on?
What the fuck?
But yeah, I think overall pretty satisfied with it. It is very much like if you're a little tired of, like, the current AAA game list of like a lot of very systemic RPGs and stuff, I think this is going to be a nice, like, distraction, even though I love my systemic games more than anything. But yeah, it's a fun diversion from all of that.
There are times when playing a very straightforward game that is in this case literally straightforward, because it's a rail shooter, that can be such like a satisfying breath of fresh air.
Especially if
you
you're,
don't
like,
have to worry about 20 overlying systems all at once. You're just there and you're shooting things.
Again, especially like if you're really traveling or on vacation or something, and you're like, what do I want to play? Do I want to play this old Final Fantasy game? And again, I love my old Final Fantasy games, but I was like, I don't want to remember how to play this game right now. Let's just play Star Fox, because I can boot it up and immediately be playing. And it kind of has that classic Nintendo mindset of just, like, game gets played and that's what happens. You boot the game up and you are playing the game, and there's very little that you have to remember. There's not a lot going on that you need to, like, prepare yourself for. It is just kind of go in a good way.
And when you've played a level enough and you know exactly when something is going to pop up, so, like, you get that full array of enemies as they fly by, it feels damn satisfying.
There's a lot of mastering to be had here as well. Okay, that's the Star Fox talk. Hey, Alex, you got a game you want to talk about? Because I think we've been burning quite a lot of time on the Star Fox, but that was the big game to chat about. So
there's a good few. There's the ones that we've been playing together, still more so and less so. Then there's also a bunch that I've been dipping my toes into that are single player.
Very
But
fun.
most recently, one that I was also still playing today, and one that has caused me quite a significant amount of emotional damage, Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, so
trial.
Alex, you've beaten Heaven's Word's base game, not post patches.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
man, Heaven's Word is a good time. So
yeah, and I've started to get into the post patches, and bad decisions are being made. And I see now how my character is going to develop some lifelong traumas.
There's a reason that
cool. Never accepting food or drink again. Neat. That's a fun character.
Are trauma bonding. Yeah.
The worst part is the worst part is the writing is so good that occasionally I can call things right before they happen, and it's like, wow, I hate that I'm right.
The thing I love about Heavensward's writing in particular is it is predictable, but it is intentionally predictable at times, so that you
They pushed that
figure
child off the
out.
roof for a very long time.
Look, it's you figure out the
Before she was
twist
caught.
or the thing that's about to happen right as it is unfolding in front of you, and you're like, you get that sense of
Perfect
dread
pacing.
you can get in movies
Perfect
where you're
pacing
like,
rating. Yeah.
I understand that what's about to happen is crazy, and I can do nothing about it. And I think it's very, very good. It also hopes that Heavensward really starts stepping up the like boss fights and stuff to be
The boss
much more
fights I really
engaging.
enjoyed. There's a lot more mechanical interaction in fighting.
They start exposing more of the like late game Final Fantasy XIV mechanics to you.
My God, the Dark Knight job quest is phenomenal too.
Yeah, the job quest is super well written.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's very, very good that you're getting through it. Though also unfortunate you leveled your crafters without access to the Heavensward thing.
I mean, I leveled them so much because my long-term goal, and Ryan and everyone else who I have talked to about this has advised me to not do that, or to slow down until you've unlocked a certain point after Heavensward for like ease of use for
You've got
crafting
like
stuff.
2 more sets of patches to go through, and then you're good. So you're not actually that far
Yeah.
from it, but
but I mean, like I have like the crafting classes that I'm interested in, which is I think everything except for um oh god, Goldsmith and Weaver, I think are the only
the
Goldsmith,
light armor.
Weaver, and then Culinarian and Fishing are the only ones that I haven't touched at all. So
Gotta
I'm just like,
fish.
I'm not too much. I might at some point.
You got to pick up fishing so we can go do ocean fishing. Because for those who don't know, Final Fantasy XIV has ocean fishing, which is like every hour or so a boat comes by that you can get on and then do a fishing dungeon. Essentially, it's very fun.
But yeah, I like my goal for this is to, before I am not like forced off the free trial, but before I come to the point where I need to start paying for a subscription, I want to get I keep forgetting the name. There's so many names of proper nouns in Final
The relic
Fantasy. It
weapon.
gets ridiculous. Yeah, I want to get my relic weapon for one of my classes. And I have the flow chart for the things that I need to do to get there. And I also haven't leveled armor, which is becoming a problem. I'm just like, I need a lot of sheet metal for these weapons
Well,
that are
to be
coming
clear
up.
here, so the thing that makes this really hard for Alex to do during the
because it's
free
not
trial,
designed to be done on the free trial.
so it's specifically the market board exists in the game, which is your MMO trading thing. The free trial for Final Fantasy is super generous. You get tons and tons of content. You don't get access to the market board to trade with other players. And so
Well, it became even more generous too. You have the first 3 expansions now, right?
yeah, you've got you might have
crazy.
Heavensward, yes, Heavensward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers. So you get 3 full expansions, incredible stories in each of them. Tons of cool combat jobs and like stuff that you won't need to ever touch crafting for. If you want the relic weapon, especially for base game, because the base game relic weapons are more tedious than some of the expansion ones by a pretty significant margin. You need all of your crafting jobs leveled up. If you're doing it without the market board, you need all your crafting jobs.
It's to 50, I believe, right? Because that's the max level.
Yeah,
that it
you
was
need
at
the max level
time
of the base game. I don't actually know if you need fully max level, but I imagine one of them
the
you
ones
for
that
sure
I've
need
invested
50.
in, I've gotten them to 30, and I've also seen that there's a real XP wall at that point because there's so much
it gets
stuff
much
that you
slower.
need to stack on top of each other. There's inventory space that you need to worry about when it comes to that.
So you've got like a whole set of things making this very difficult, because if you have the trading board, you can just trade for the items you need that you can't make. But the specific thing is just like, as long as you can wait to like go heavy on leveling crafters until you get your Ishgard Restoration access, it won't be that bad. But it's really just going to be a time sink of like finding all the resources you need because you just don't have the ability to get those.
Which for the gathering jobs, I was pleasantly surprised with how the gathering jobs works. It's a little bit more that and the crafting. I found it a little bit more interactive than my previous
they're more involved
MMO crafting
than
experience.
most MMO crafters and gatherers, which is fun. All right, that's the 14 tirade. Have you been having a good time enjoying your 14 isms?
And it's been having a good time torturing me emotionally too. Yeah.
Like you're almost to the end of Heavensward's main story patches, so you're getting close.
Like any good video game needs to emotionally traumatize you a little.
Emotional damage. I want to briefly bring up another game that you and I had played, Alex, because we finally jumped on the train, the streamer bandwagon yesterday of playing
Little
some Mecha
dabbling.
Chameleon.
Oh, I saw
And
that you
doing
had
some
posted in there.
one-on-ones.
I was curious if you guys had played any of it.
Mecha Chameleon.
Because we weren't sure, we were just like, oh, we have a little while. Do we want to play a game or something? But we didn't want to play more Outriders without Wyatt because we started up an Outriders.
Yeah, there was
session.
that, and then I was a little too low energy for Bopple.
Yeah, and both of us we were also very tired. It was like the end of the day, and we just needed a game to be a little bit more chill. So we were like, okay, let's try this little $6 indie game.
Wow, it's worth it.
It was crazy too because I was concerned that it would not play well with two people. I still think it plays quite well with two people. You have to tune the settings a little bit.
Yeah, that mandatory little like taunt hint is
because for anyone who's not familiar with what Mecha Chameleon is, it is a prop hunt style hide and seek game where you have hunters and you have hiders, and the hiders need to paint themselves to blend into the environment, and they can hide quite a large variety of spaces.
Give
where
a lot
the
of
seekers,
really funny clips of this.
Yeah,
online.
tons of great clips. Lots of streamers are playing this. It sold a like bajillion copies. I think it's like a 15 million or something insane.
My
wow.
God.
Yeah, it's hit numbers that are crazy. So they're doing quite well.
Good for them.
But yeah,
it looks like a 2-person dev team. That's what I saw.
Yeah, very small dev team. It's got like Steam Workshop support for maps, which is awesome. So yeah, you get a ton of really cool things out of that. So the Seekers have a like shotgun they can shoot you with, but they only have 5 shots or however many you give them to find hiders. So you've got to have like, you can't just be blasting everywhere like you can in Call of Duty. You kind of have to aim to only shoot things you are
remarkably accurate shotgun.
Yeah, it's a slug shotty, you know. Shoots its slug of paint blast. But yeah, the maps, even just, we didn't play with workshop maps. It was just a fun back and forth. I think we did 4-minute rounds with a 60-second hiding time, so you don't have a ton of time to like get hyper painted.
Which, that being the case, you were really good at copying the jellyfish burger paint.
Well, that's because I saw that, immediately went into it, and and you went the wrong way the first time, so I had way more time to paint it.
I think that was the first round when we had the mandatory whistling.
We did the forced whistling, and it whistled literally right as you like, were staring at me, and I was like, "Oh no!" But yeah, it's very fun. There's lots of little goofy hiding spots and stuff. It is definitely more.
So many nooks and crannies.
It is more challenging with a single hider and single seeker because there's just so much space in the maps and so many things. So definitely you want to turn on that force whistle so that you can like at least know when you're in the vicinity.
Or get a nice big group and have a fun hunting time.
Yeah, I'm sure it would also, because I think it supports up to 24 players actually, but it recommends up to 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's super good to pick up. We'll probably do a podcast episode of this at some point because it seems like a fun little relaxing and terribly stressful game to play. Alex hiding in the rafters of
another
Shibuya.
Yeah. Oh god, it's like I was painting myself into a street sign, and it, to my defense, it looked perfect when you were looking at it straight on. But I was way above eye level, so the second you looked, you were like, "Oh, that's really distorted."
Yeah, but it's very fun. It's as good as it looks, I would say. So if you think you're interested in that game, like, it's $6, go pick it up and try it out. You do need it. I'm sure you could play this just online with randoms. Far better with friends.
Oh, I'm sure.
Definitely a game to play with people you know. And at $6, it's a pretty easy. Hey, come play this. So yeah, Mecha Chameleon, pretty good. Wyatt, you got anything else you want to talk about?
I do. I'm gonna take us out of the realm of video games for a second. I picked up another board game because I'm still on my board game bullshit. This is called Drop Drive, and what it is, in the most basic sense, is kind of like a space adventure game. Everyone controls a ship. You fly it around the galaxy. You pick up different bits of debris, or you pick up like lost space fuel and stuff, and you fly to planets, and then you sell all of the debris and stuff that you find, or you can explore the planet to find various things. You can pick up like passengers from one planet and then deliver them to another planet to get more space credits,
it's crazy
which is the
taxi.
goal. Yeah, kind of. But what's cool, and everyone has like a corresponding like pirate ship that you control. Not that you're like that they're working with you, but it's like the NPC, kind of how you have to control NPC characters in a board game. There's also your ship that has a customizable front part and back part, and then you can also get cards that will add cool modules onto your ship that will add like extra storage or like more attack power, that sort of thing, because there's also space combat. So cool, like customizable ship. But the big selling point is that the map is essentially randomly generated. And the way that they do that is they have a hexagonal wall around the whole thing, which is kind of like your border. And then right in the middle is like a giant semisphere, which is like the sun of the galaxy that you're in. And all the little things that you collect, all the little asteroids and bits of debris and stuff, you pick up in your hand and you drop it on top of the sun, and then it shoots it everywhere. So you drop all of the collectible pieces onto the map.
That's great. Yeah.
It's so cool. And then anytime you spend a resource, or anytime that you like a pirate ship is destroyed or your ship is destroyed, you drop it back into the universe again to like infinitely reuse all of
Matter is neither created or destroyed.
That's very fun.
It's super cool. There's also like when you sell your different colored asteroids and stuff, it also creates market caps on all of the planets. So there's different basically,
oh god, there's an economy.
It creates like a very streamlined, very simple economy for all these planets that you have to fly to. It's so cool. And instead
really
of moving
fun.
via dice, you have these little connectable pieces that can kind of bend. You know what? I have this little fidget toy on my desk. That's a perfect example. Instead of dice or like using rulers and stuff, you basically have these pieces that you can bend, kind of like this. And so you can interact with anything along your flight path. And you can adjust the speed of your ship by how many pieces you have in your thing. So you can customize a ship that has maybe a lot of guns, but not a lot of movement. So you have like less range to work with. Or in the game that I played, you have a lot of movement, so you have more pieces in your flight path, so you have a longer, more customizable flight path.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. Once we figured out how the game works, it's great. Here's the problem. The rulebook is one of the worst written rulebooks I have ever seen. It is so unclear and does not explain the finer details of things, to the point where we had to rely on YouTube tutorials, on like Reddit threads, or like different threads on like Board Game Geek, just to figure out
like what is applicable.
Just to figure out some of the smaller mechanics. Like for instance, they talk about like, one of the other mechanics in the game is that you can spend fuel in order to drop in specific parts around the map, but you can only drop around a planet or only drop around a specific ship, that sort of thing. But what they tell you is, if you drop it, it has to land within an inch of whatever you're trying to drop it on top of, and if it doesn't, you have to do it over again. It's like, okay, but these things bounce everywhere. You could spend 20 minutes trying to get it within an inch of what you're trying to drop it on. Is it more like... We're like, that doesn't seem right, and it was very vague about the specifics. And so it's like, is it like you drop it in a specific spot and then you just kind of move it to the closest inch, or do you just have to keep dropping it over and over again? And we had to look it up online because no one knows.
Interesting.
So that's the frustrating part. Oh my god, there's more. I forgot. There's also things that you can fly by called anomalies, which there's a preset of like cards that you can pick. Where like, if you go to this anomaly, it will have this rule set. But the cool thing is there's an option where you can create your own rules and have all this crazy, wacky stuff going on. So you could have rules where if you go through an anomaly and you get the right one, you can just start flicking enemy pieces around if you want to. Or, because it's all custom, you can just create it and like agree to it ahead of time before the game starts. There's rule sets where people will theme it around Star Trek or Star Wars. There's ones where like people just pick up all the pieces and reset the entire galaxy. There's ones where like if you have a certain amount of cargo, it will slow down your ship ship. So there's so much replayability because you could add your own. It like facilitates custom rule sets. It's crazy, and but it's very streamlined as well, and it's in such a small box, which as someone who's been collecting board games over the last couple of years, I have come to deeply appreciate small boxes like this.
Yeah, the same.
There's so much.
It's really funny because you go from being impressed by the huge boxes to being like, I don't want that anymore.
I'm impressed by big box stuff, but living with them after an extended period
you have to
of time,
become picky with your big boxes.
I was gonna say there's like you get two, maybe I say upwards of 2 big box games. I am impressed with Vantage. Vantage comes in a huge box.
Vantage is reasonable though. I would not call Vantage a big box game.
Screw Scythe. Scythe's box and everything about it is too big.
I've heard Scythe is very, very large. But,
see, my problem is Kingdom Death.
And it lasts longer than Monopoly on average, or Risk. It's bad.
That's a lot of games.
I would say the perfect box size is something similar to this, Ryan, but you also have it as reference. The Escape the Dark games have like the perfect box size.
Escape the Dark is very good,
and it's very similar to this size. I like big box games, but because I usually go to other people's houses, I have to bring these gigantic games with me, and they're very annoying to lug around. But no, I think there's so much potential with this, and I'm so excited to play more of this because it is like. It literally says infinite possibilities here, which normally is like, okay, fine, whatever, technically, but like, do you want to do that many times? No, I actually think this is very fitting to have here this time.
I'm going to look around for a copy of that at Gen Con, see if they're there, because...
Yeah, this is great, and I love all the artwork, all of the little creatures. Here, I'll zoom in.
What's the player count
are really
on this
great.
game?
2 to 4.
Okay.
However, they also have expansions where there's a solo mode. It adds an extra player and a co-op mode.
Oh, very cool.
But I love.
I'm a big fan of co-op.
I love all the artwork for the ships. It's very like over the top and almost like Saturday morning cartoony. But I think for this kind of game, that works perfectly.
That's super cool.
There's also different pilots that have different effects as well.
Of course.
So there's so much like different combinations of ships and pilots that you can do. So that's great.
Very cool.
Probably one of my favorite new board games that I've played recently.
All right.
Hey,
Alex.
There's a game that I think you've definitely touched in at least, but this weekend has had a big event in the gaming landscape for those who play it. It's been TennoCon this weekend.
Yeah, it has been TennoCon. That is true.
With huge reveals, nice amount of free stuff.
You can play some slot machines. Apparently.
Slot machines?
Yeah, there's a little.
It's weirder than it sounds.
So, they revealed exactly what it looks like when in Warframe we're going to Tau in the winter expansion, and we get a hard-boiled detective frame coming up.
To be clear about this,
Matt Mercer.
Because we can't assume people listening to this know what Warframe is on the level that is required for what we're talking about. The reason Tau is important is Warframe has been like very solar system based for the whole time, like our solar system. That is the whole game setting. Tau is the Tau Ceti. It's the next system, right? So
and this has been like a thing they've been
building to forever. For like
they've specifically said that they are building out the full solar system.
Yeah,
so
we're
going to be doing. It's
many
not
of us thought it was just going to be like a single mission. No, it's a full system.
That's insane.
With new mission. I was so excited when Pablo said there's going to be new mission types there as well. I can imagine because they're also like the level structure for the different planets is entirely different too. You have that huge, like, not to say that they haven't done open world bits before, but this open world is like really well
They've got like
structured,
a oddball cyberpunk city that feels like 1920s New York if it were cyberpunk.
If it were cyberpunk,
everyone in the city
very Geiger-esque.
It's all themed around the Sentient faction in Warframe, which is a very weird faction. They're like
really well alien designed, even though they're not technically aliens.
To my knowledge, I think Sentients. I read this somewhere. I don't know where I read this. So I could be wrong, but I believe they were initially like themed after the internal like organ structures of animals. as like the shape of their bodies. So they
Jesus
don't look like
Christ.
organs, but they have like a nervous system-y kind of look.
Yeah, it's like
of
a thick
robots.
version of the human nervous system.
They just
More
look very
so than,
odd and very cool. So it's a very fun aesthetic. But they have like a half sentient detective Warframe that seems to be the next one.
What's his name? It's named after one of the
Briscoe,
Law and
I
Order.
want to say.
Briscoe, yeah. Yep. That's the one.
Voiced by Matt Mercer, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Fantastic.
very excited for
Which
that.
the way they get around this, because he's a Warframe. Warframes don't really talk. He has an inner monologue that you can listen to.
Yeah, his talking is his inner monologue. And there is a weird thing with Briscoe too, that they've said that there's going to be like chimera-ized version of Warframes. What that means,
you have to
we
see his
haven't really
chimera
gotten
mode.
to. So the one that we saw is the Chimera mode, which we don't know if that's going to be like the mode you play or not, or if
More
it's going to be
mysteries
like
to discover on Tau.
maybe those are just two different aesthetics. Like maybe the reason he looks very sentient-y is he's the Chimera mode, and maybe there's a version of him that is not Chimera-y or not sentient-y, or maybe it'll be the other way around, and maybe it's like that the Chimera mode is like a new proto-frame type thing where it's a character but it doesn't look human. So
Nope, no more protofames. No more proto. They said no more protofames this year. I'm good. I'm good with that.
well,
I
yeah, that's
think
what I'm
they've
wondering
done
is
what
if
they
like they're using Chimera mode to be we're gonna treat them like a specific character, like how all the proto-frames are like a named individual.
Yeah.
If the Chimera mode things are like that version of Briscoe is like a full character, is not like you're making a new Briscoe. It is you are playing this character, like kind of like Excalibur Umbra, and stuff like that, where it's like you're now playing a character instead of just a Warframe.
You guys have fully lost me at this point.
Well, because there's like a difference, right? Where a normal Warframe is like that is your player class essentially, like it's your class,
and by their
choice.
nature, a lot of the Warframes in the lore are mass produced.
Yeah, avoiding the lore, because we got to assume people don't know about Warframe. The general thing with proto-frames is that a proto-frame is a named character, right? Like a proto-frame is like a mirror. He has his glasses and he talks in a certain way, right? Like he's got a personality.
And you're gonna get to play a little D&D campaign with him, or a Fables and Frontiers game,
which is super
with him and
cool.
the
They're
rest
doing
of the
basically
X.
their Tiny Tinas.
Love that.
But those
must
are the
be so
proto-frames,
excited
and then the like regular Warframes don't have a personality, right? Like they're not.
It must be so
an
difficult to
ascribed
try and
personality.
quickly. It must be so difficult to try and quickly explain this game to someone at this point. Because
Dude,
it
it's
feels like
gotten
there's
insane.
just-
There's just so much game.
Have they like vaulted or anything or like sunsetted anything?
Playing content wise,
Yeah.
I would not say of anything meaningful. There was
No.
one big instance, which is they got rid of raids.
the raids, yeah,
They did
which
raids at
that
one
was
point.
a big
They got rid of them.
experiment. Yeah,
People didn't
There's
like
that.
it. The only other thing is kind of the Nightwave operations,
Scarlet.
but those are like seasonal events, so they come
yeah.
back.
There used to
after a
be
while.
story with that for like 3 seasons, but then they dropped that because it's like, no, people are gonna miss out on this. We don't want that necessarily. It's just gonna be a nice free reward track that people can work through.
So they have
they-
all this crazy shit and they haven't vaulted anything.
Again, they technically have.
The,
It just isn't important.
Yeah. And then
There's
when
a
you get
difference between
to like
vaulting the
the
start of your story and
when you get to the like when we're talking about literally vaulting things, they have, because there's so many frames in the game at this point, and prime frames especially, when they get to a certain number, they've started to rotate them in and out, so they're not all available all the time, but they will at some point be.
Yeah, with the exception of Excalibur Prime, but that's like a really special scenario. Excalibur Prime is like the pre-order
founder
reward.
bonus. That's not a
To be clear,
No one
that's
is ever
the
getting
pre-order
Excalibur
reward
Prime.
for the initial version of Warframe when it was still in beta, and also is worse than a version of Excalibur that we currently have. So like you shouldn't feel bad about missing that, but that's like the only unobtainable completely thing. At least of like a major content piece. I'm sure there's like icons and stuff that have gone away.
There's that's actual like playable content. Cosmetic content were the 2 first heirloom skins that are Frost and Mag, but that's because of a whole legal thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a recolor of those or something, or like a slight retheme at some point, because it seems like there was a whole kerfuffle about those 2 heirloom skins where they were like, it's a limited time thing, and then people were like, we don't like limited time things.
Playable content that matters, not vaulted.
All right, that's the Warframe. Warframe's been doing great. Warframe's having a great time.
One more thing that I'm so excited about for Warframe. The now announced unannounced fall update. We're finally getting another ice frame. Frost is not the
Hell
singular
yeah.
ice frame now. Finally getting an ice frame, and it could be based on ice skating.
We don't know, though.
They,
We don't
they've
know
said
yet,
ice
but it could
blades.
be.
They've said ice blades.
I'm imagining daggers. I think it's going to be dagger themed, which is very cool because I'm down for like one of my favorite.
It's still cool. I'm still so happy we're getting another ice frame.
One of my favorite like aesthetics of Magic is person who just pulls icicles out of thin air and stabs you with them. I think that's sick as hell. So, looking forward to it. All right, that's the Warframe chatter. I want to talk pretty briefly about Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, because I've been playing a fair bit of that since it came out, and why it's in his grumpy old man mode, because he ordered a physical copy and it hasn't gotten there yet. So, we gotta throw shade on whoever's shipping that. We gotta throw that. That is some bad shipping at this point.
Good on you for getting a physical copy while they exist, though.
Yeah.
I'm still getting it while they exist, man. That's a separate discussion for another day.
But yeah, I think Black Flag Resynced is a really interesting game to me because Black Flag is pretty much my favorite Assassin's Creed. Maybe AC2 would be up there, but I really liked Black Flag because it kind of hit at the perfect time when it first came out for me. So I played tons of that game. It's one of the Assassin's Creeds that I remember the most, like, of the non-new ones. I
can say that for me, it holds a special place in my heart because it was the first PS4 game that I ever played. I got a PS4 on launch, and it was the first PS4 game I ever played. And so it was the first time, because my brother and I really started playing video games seriously when we had an Xbox 360. So it was the first time that I had ever like gotten a new next generation game console before, and it blew my mind. Just like, oh my god, the graphics are crazy, and it was this like, and then it just ended up being like one of the best games of that generation. So it just was like a perfect storm.
Yep. And I think a lot of that led to me being pretty skeptical of this remake because I hold the first so highly. And like I played it fairly recently. There's Switch ports of Black Flag and the related games to Black Flag, and they're pretty good. Like it is not a compromised port at all. So if you want to play the original versions, the Switch ports are quite good. Though they are locked at 30, so be aware. But I mean, on the Switch 1, it kind of made sense because Black Flag's pretty intense. But
wow, they ported it to the Switch 1?
Yeah, they're on Switch 1. You can get the Rogue collection.
I mean, Switch 1 is about an Xbox 360 power level.
Yeah, so it's like on the level of the version of Black Flag that is like locked to 30. Playing Resynced, though, there's a lot of changes that they've made that I really like. There are a few I don't like as much, and I'm going to go through those first because I think I don't think any of them are like even close to deal breakers, but there are some that I just like. I know why developmentally they probably cut these things, but I wish they kept them. One is the like combat where you could pick up enemy weapons and like use them for a single attack. You can't do that anymore. So like you can't like kill a gunner, pick up his musket and shoot somebody, which was a cool fantasy. I don't think it's that missing. Like it just is like I'm just kind of like, oh, it would be cool to do that. It's not really I feel like it's missing a thing because of that. One of the things I don't love is that because this is based off of the modern like Shadows and Valhalla like animation systems and stuff, the finisher animations are really hidden blade focused. And I'm a big fan of hidden blades. I love the hidden blades. I actually loved in the initial Black Flag you could play with them as your main weapon, and I often did. And that's another thing that's gone from this one that I kind of wish you could do, although I understand why, because they're now like there's an interesting change they've done with the combat loop where now it's really focused on countering and then going into sprees of takedowns. And then in 1v1s it has a more like fully built out light attack, heavy attack, block and dodge like combat system for like boss fights and stuff. Generally works super well. But the thing I do miss is like the initial original Black Flag, Edward had so many animations that were like, if you sprint assassinate someone, he pulls out both cutlasses and like runs them through the spine like that. And now it's just like it still looks very cool where he like grabs them, lifts them, and then like hidden blade up through the sternum, but it's not quite as awesome as the piratey ones, I feel. So I miss that little bit of stuff. But a lot of the other things I think work super well. Like the general loop of combat I feel like is working much better. The way that you use your like pistol still feels really good. You still got the like kicks and the like weird rope dart thing and your blow darts and all the things you would expect from Black Flag are still here, just in slightly changed ways. And so the combat loop I think generally feels more satisfying than the original. There's just a few like thematic things that I miss, like the variety of finishers and stuff that he had that were not like hidden blade based and were more like pull out a gun and shoot the dude, and stuff like that.
There was some extra sauce there.
There was a little bit of pirate sauce that I feel like has been left on the table.
Yeah.
But there's tons of
pirate
more
rum.
piratey things in that like everything they've done with the ship combat I love. I would say it is a full rework of ship combat. It still feels as weighty and like as impactful as it did before, but all of your weapons now have unlockable alternate fires. And this is where like I am sure all of this is a huge departure from history compared to the original Black Flag.
It's Assassin's Creed. It doesn't fucking matter.
But the gunblade does exist.
The gunblade was a real thing. It's a stupid real thing, but it's a real thing. But the thing with it is that like it's a little bit more suspension of disbelief needed to like buy into these, I think. But you have like experimental weapons now, so you can do like when you dock at port, you get reload your ammo for all these things, and as you unlock them and find these new officer characters, which is one of the really cool things, there are new characters that become part of your ship and have full like loyalty missions related to unlocking more stuff, which is very cool. You get the ability for like a mortar that can shoot long range shots that will like rain down on things, and that's very cool. You get your regular broadside, then you get a heavy shot, which is if you're not aiming, you tap right trigger, you have a short range like extremely damaging blast that you can do that is just like tons of cannon fire going in, and you've got like limited ability to load those. And then you can toggle your normal broadside to, instead of being a single volley, it's a like couple of rounds of heated shot, which is, it can't travel as far, but it can do devastating damage at really short ranges because it'll keep just like pumping damage. But of course, if you're able to do that, they're probably able to shoot you back, and so it makes it harder to like brace and stuff at the right times. One of your companions gives you perfect blocking in your ship, where
is this the perfect parry companion that you just unlocked? That
you can hold the button at the perfect time, and you'll take way less damage once you have your shipwright quest done. I just unlocked the Master at Arms, and you get a cool like basically stabbing attack, which is a weird way to put it because it's a boat, but you get a attack with that character that is essentially a like speed boost into ramming. So you can do that to like force orient yourself to ram a ship really effectively. The boarding feels as good as ever. I saw some people complaining that it was a little clunky, but I'm like, it was more clunky than this in the base game. I think people just have a clouded memory of what that felt like, and it still is super cool. There's tons of like side content you can find. I found a ship that was burning in the ocean and hopped on it and had like a limited amount of time to loot all of its treasures, and I had to hop out before the ship exploded. There's tons of like little things like your assassin contracts that you can do in the game don't get unlocked until you meet the assassins for the first time, which is a cool thing because there's less of a disconnect now as to like Edward is not technically part of the assassins for most of the game.
He doesn't really care about being an assassin.
Yeah, it's not his MMO.
And who would when you're a pirate?
Because he's super focused on money, and so he like goes through the first half of the game having basically the stolen identity of an assassin, and then that unfurls into a bunch of stuff. But now you unlock your ability to do assassin contracts when you first meet the assassins, because they'll be like, we don't like you, and we're not going to say you're welcome here, but we will pay you if you work for us. And so you unlock them then. Basically just all the controls in general feel better. There is tons of content related to these side characters that you get for the officer stuff, and like sequences of missions. Like I've done multiple island raids at this point for one character, and I have not finished her story. There's another one that's like, they're very predictable. Like they're kind of tropey stories, but they're fun tropes, so it's okay. Because they're just your officer characters, and you kind of expect what's going to happen, but you're like, yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes.
There's also like loyalty missions for these different...
Yeah, it's loyalty missions. I would say they're less narratively impactful than most loyalty mission type things, just because
they serve the same purpose.
But they serve a similar purpose, yeah. And it's a lot of content. Like it's a lot of stuff to do that was not there before. And there's like even more things related to your hideout, where like the base Assassin's Creed 4, the hideout was like there, but like I didn't even remember it existed going into this game, despite having played that game to completion multiple times. I sat through here, got to the hideout, and was like, oh yeah, this thing, and then you meet a new character who's like, I have a bunch of stuff for you. The old master of this house, I hated the new person that was here that you just killed, so you can have it, and I'll help you like organize everything. If you go like collect the relics or the art pieces that my mistress had loved before she died, and it's a great little setup for going to like enhance and repair your hideaway, and you really make this like little hideaway area feel super cool as you're doing it, and you get all these repaired areas, and you can like keep upgrading things and get new stuff. All of your ship related upgrades are way more advanced now. There's more levels to things. There's more like different types of stuff to do. More logistics related to it. There's lots more visual customization as well for everything, where you can get tons
And
of
you have
outfits.
those sea shanties.
Yeah, tons of outfits, tons of sea shanties, tons of like hull colors and stuff. Important thing to note: shipwrights now sell cosmetics for your ship if you because that wasn't a huge thing in the original version. You can get cosmetics from the shipwrights, so make sure to check their shops and not just their upgrading ship menu. And yeah, there's just tons of stuff, lots of things in the game to do, and basically none of the real life modern day stuff is here. There's a little bit, but it seems to be pretty
Like,
disconnected.
did they pare it back from the original game?
It's
or-
gone. It's mostly gone. Like all the original game, like Abstergo introduction is fully not here, which I think is a good call. Like I don't think it was bad in Black Flag, but I do think it would be super out of place in this remake, and it would hurt the pacing a ton. Instead, you there's like a little through line of something happening with the Animus, and you can like find glitches and stuff that will give you some like lore items and things, but it's much less abstractly or much less in your face than it was before. And it doesn't like interrupt the story constantly, which is very nice.
The modern day sequences were like this whole first person, like
Yeah,
almost
you
like
were
light
an
puzzle
Abstergo
thing.
employee, doing some like puzzly stuff in the initial one, and that's not here for this one. I think it's fine.
People freaked out back in the day because there was a very, very light Watch Dogs mention in the modern day
Yes.
sequences, and so it's what led people to think that Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed were in the same universe, which I think
That
would
would
have
be
been
cool.
kind of sick, actually.
What do you mean freaked
the-
out? I love crossovers
Well, no,
like
freaked
that.
out in a good way. Like people
Yeah.
wanted it to
Okay.
happen. It's like
Yeah.
the hackers are like modern assassins. Would have been very cool. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Please continue.
But that's it. And the last thing with like the officer stuff that's very cool is the officers they aren't like silent characters after you get them. You hear them on your ship as you're doing the things that they should be doing. So like when you have your shipwright, you'll hear if you take a big hit, you'll hear from the crew like we need the shipwright to work on that and stuff like that. Or you'll hear her yelling when you speed boost to like do the same thing that Adewale will do, and you'll get different voice lines and stuff. And yeah, it's just really there's a lot of cool touches here. I'm excited to see what the new stuff after the story is. But everything I've found is really good. I think this like looks visually much better than I was expecting.
There is one thing I noticed visually, and I was wondering if you noticed this and had a problem with this. Because there's so many comparisons online of like the original and the new one, right? The original has the characters are dirty. There's a lot of grime, and what I'm noticing with the remaster is everyone looks very clean in comparison.
I would say I don't necessarily agree with that, with the exception of the officer characters. I think the officer characters look a little out of place. Not like tremendously so.
Part of me is like, I think they kind of look grimy just because it's an older game, and so it was kind of like
around when that was
incidental.
coming. When did 4 come out?
2014.
Yeah, it was much older.
Yeah, still around then that's like at the book end of the really the Skyrim era of grit that you see on game characters, where it's the character design mantra at that point was, make textures as dirty and as grimy as you can because that adds character, and then pare it back, because it's easier to tone down texture changes than it is to just keep adding more.
Yeah, I would say
So.
it's a similar level. I don't think it's really gone. I think it really is just like there's less pixelation, so it looks fine. The one difference is that Edward has like immaculate mascara. I don't know what's going on.
Good for him.
He's rocking eyeshadow in this game, and it is kind of distracting because he's like, I know that the intent is probably to make him look tired. Like, I think it's meant to make him look tired, but nobody else has it. Like, if it was a character design choice, and it was across a lot of the characters. But he's there, and he's got like this immaculate black eyeliner, essentially. And I think what it's meant to be is it's just like the shadow in his eye sockets, because he's got like kind of a thuggish face, if that makes sense. It has
he's got them deep eyes.
His proportions look a little exaggerated in a good way, but his like eyes, specifically, have like just a weird level of what looks like makeup, but I don't think actually is supposed to be makeup. And no other character looks like that. Like, it's not on the rest of the cast. So I'm not sure. I'm sure it was like an intentional choice. I just don't know what they were going for with it, but it still looks good. Like, I think they did a great job with the character designs. But as I was saying, the officers look much more modern character designs. Like, they clearly, when you see them, you can tell that their base topology is better than the old characters, right? Like, you see them all and are like, oh, you have like so much going on compared to the other designs. Just in like Padre has so many like wrinkles and lines in his face that are, not to say he looks super old or something, but he just looks like more real than the other characters in a way that is a little distracting. Same thing with Lucy, where like Lucy looks, I would say, much more like photogenic in a way than a lot of the other characters. It feels like a thing that is just those character models were newer, and so they came out looking this way, because they don't look bad. They just are noticeably different than the rest of the game style.
You know what it probably is too, because again, like if you look at certain comparisons of characters' faces, you can it looks like it's grime, but I also just think it's like how harsh lighting was compared to what we have now.
Yeah, I agree. And in particular, the lighting in this game is really good. I think that there's one note, which is that sometimes hair reacts weirdly to the light in this one, because they added much more advanced like hair rendering. But it seems that specifically when you're like in doorways and like places of weird shadows, you can see the hair go from like light blonde to fully black.
Kind of like what happened in Veilguard.
Yeah, it's very Veilguard. It's the same effect I've seen in like Crimson Desert. Has kind of the same thing going on, where it just feels like this lighting engine is much newer, and the hair they did, I think it is technically more realistic, but it makes it look like everyone has weirdly changing hair colors, especially if they have lighter hair.
You know where else I saw it? Last of Us, the not the most recent remaster, but the PS4 version.
Yeah.
Sometimes like Joel's hair was like jet black, and then other times if you stepped into the light, it looked like he was just gray.
Yeah, it seems like it has something to do with the dynamic lighting, which generally looks really good. But so it like, I take the trade-off. It just seems odd when you notice it, because it does stand out. Especially because like Edward had, everyone in this game initially in the original version had like block texture hair, right? Like, it was, the whole hair was a model. They didn't have individual strands, and now everyone has individual strands, and so you can very much see like the leap in design and like the ability to render these characters with the hair specifically. But sometimes there's like the designs that worked with the full model hair don't quite feel the same in the new version, but I think generally really good. And yeah, I've been having a great time with it. I think they did a phenomenal job. I would be super up for them just doing like, hey, here's the next game in this lineup of pirate games. That'd
be great.
But yeah, I'm super curious, because it has launched really well. It's being received super well, so I hope that keeps going. All right. Any final things we want to do? We got time for like one more if somebody wants to throw something in.
I got something. I've been so this has been a long time coming. My girlfriend and I have been trying to play Halo together forever.
Hell
and
yeah.
every step of the way we've had weird technical problems. Like, I have an old Xbox Series X in my closet, right? The only reason I've kept it this long and haven't
Was for
sold it
this eventuality.
because I wanted to have a physical copy of Halo MCC that I could play split screen on with like friends. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Nikki's never played you know, Halo before. This will be perfect. This was 2 years ago, I want to say. My Xbox completely just offed itself. Like it kept crashing. I kept having to like reset it, and it was having all sorts of technical problems, and so that dream was squashed. Because if you didn't know, I do have MCC on PC. There is no split screen functionality whatsoever, which I don't even have the time to go into how much that annoys me.
You don't have the time to
anyway,
explain why you don't have time to explain.
shut up. Moving on. Then this was a couple of years later because I wasn't gonna buy a whole new Xbox for this because I feel like it still too expensive for something like that. But eventually, we have a friend who was getting rid of his old Xbox One, and she wanted it so that she could play Oblivion again. And so I was like, oh, perfect opportunity. Let's do it. And then for the longest time, we just didn't have enough controllers or like working controllers. So finally, I want to say this a couple weeks ago, we finally sit down, hook up the Xbox. We have the controllers. We have the game. The Xbox is updated. The game has all of its 10 plus years of patches or whatever. Like, we're ready to go. There's no sound. Absolutely no sound whatsoever, which was weird because it was working the day before.
Oh,
but
come
not here.
on.
And then we're like, I at this point I'm like, you know what? There's a weird tech curse. Something out there does not want us to play Halo. Maybe we should just listen to it. And then her friend comes back because they're hanging out with us. He walked upstairs, turned it on, worked just fine.
Of course it does.
We were able to play that afternoon, and then next week, when
It'll
we sat
only
down
ever
to play
work
it
properly
again,
when there's someone to see you.
no sound again. And so we tried unplugging everything, plugging it back in. Nothing worked until we said, fuck it. Because we had it set up on her TV upstairs in her room. We took it down to the living room TV. Worked perfectly fine. So for some reason, it was her TV. Anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying this has been a long time coming. But we finished Halo CE almost in an entire afternoon, which was pretty cool. We basically had a whole day to just dedicate to it. She liked it enough. I think if you've never played Halo before and you just play Halo CE today, I do think it's kind of difficult to appreciate what it did for first-person shooters.
Yeah.
As much as you can explain it to someone. My own personal take is that, wow, the controls, for the most part, have really held up since 2001, which is crazy. The AI has really held up since 2001, which is crazy. Obviously, the music has held up, which is crazy. The level design ranges from being pretty good to the most repetitive, monotonous fucking thing I've played in a very long time. Because, listen, everyone talks about the library. The library is basically the same room copy-pasted 15 times, and it's basically a test to see whether you have the mental fortitude to, like, not go insane. But it's not just that level. There are basically, after the first 2 or 3 levels in the game, it really starts to repeat rooms 5-6 times in a row. Like 2 Betrayals is cool because you're going out to all these bridges, and it, like, introduces you to, like the snowy environment and all this stuff, but like in between that, you're just going to the same like hexagonal room 5 or 6 times in a row, and then it's to the same bridge that you were on 10 minutes ago, and then back to another 5 or 6 hexagonal rooms. And,
I like my hexagonal rooms, but I've also been playing a lot of Morrowind, so what is my
understanding what I do about the development of the first Halo game, I completely understand that they had to do what they had to do, because my God, were they in a rush to put that game together.
Yeah. I am super curious what your opinion is going to be if you pick it up of the campaign Evolved, because you'll play this pretty recently.
I am more excited to play Campaign Evolved after playing Combat Evolved.
Because you're more open to the changes.
Yeah, I'm more open to the level design changes. I know they said they're going to be changing like the library pretty heavily, which is good, which is very much a good thing.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Halo CE and everything that it's done. I think it's a situation where I respect it a lot more than I actually enjoy playing it, but I think so much of it has held up and withstood the test of time that the level design, one of the most important things in a Halo game, for me hasn't, which is why it's like really frustrating to play these days. But I also understand that people have a very soft spot for CE. I'm never gonna contest that because that would be a suicide mission in and of itself. But we're on to Halo 2 now, very excited. And then on my own time, I've also just been playing like greatest hits from all the Halo games. Like some of my favorite missions from all of them, which has been great. Been getting back into the multiplayers and getting my fucking cheeks handed to me on a Master Chief colored platter. It's been rough. Even going back and doing some stuff in like Halo Infinite and playing all the multiplayer there. It's been fun. Like they're clearly designed to be played in order, like, you know, going from CE to 2 to 3, whatever. But it's also kind of fun because the MCC really sections off all of the levels and all of the various aspects of Halo. It's kind of fun just to do like your own little like greatest hits. Of like, oh, I'm going to play like the Storm or Pelican Down in Halo 3, and then I'm going to go play like New Alexandria in Halo Reach or something like that.
Really get the full
that's
run
been a lot of fun.
of experience that you want. Yeah, that's very fun. All right. Well, that's the games we've been playing lately, which means we're to the end of the show, and as of course, that means there must be shout-outs. Who's got one? Who's ready to go?
I have two quick little ones. Number one.
Twofer.
Hell yeah.
I love my little men. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I just
that
painted
looks
an
sick.
iron golem. Yeah.
What a good little guy.
I had so much fun getting that weathered metal look on him. And number two, thank you so much for getting me a functioning controller.
Yeah.
Got him an
It happened.
That hopefully will not screw me over on Game Pass.
Hell yeah.
That is the least likely controller to screw you over on Game Pass.
Not saying it's impossible, but it's
least likely. Wyatt, you know the curse we share.
Did I not say least
together.
likely? I did not say impossible. I said least likely.
Was specific, yeah. Okay, you got something, Wyatt?
I do. I've already showed this off before, but I want to show it off again. Not for any particular reason. No recent events has wanted me to show off the Super Pocket again.
Hell
really cool
yeah.
little handheld that comes with all these physical cartridges that has done incredible work in preserving our video
those are
game
so
history.
Cute.
Look at that, little boxes.
Those are really
They come
cool.
with colored manuals that talk about all the games.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some of them come with posters. Look at this. You see this little physical cartridge? Like an actual cartridge that you own once you buy it.
That must feel great to pop in and out and blow. Again, there's
that. There's no particular reason I want to show these off again. I just think it's cool. Oh, here's another one. What it also does, not only does it preserve our video game history by having classic arcade games, but it also has newer indie games in like this one is just a standalone one, but for instance this is the Morphcat games, so it has a bunch of indie games from the Morphcat games developer all on one. Again,
nice.
I need to stress this once again, on one cartridge. Even fun stuff like
Beef.
Like one of the games has like a bunch of these little characters, and they have little like business cards for all the characters. It's got all this fun little stuff. Or like I said, full color manuals that talk about the developers, a little bit about each game and like the development of each game. Kind of like what you used to get back in the day. Just like a lot of cool analog stuff. Again, no real reason for showing this off again. I just thought it's cool to show off all of this cool analog cartridge games that you own once you buy them and are not at risk of a large company coming in and stealing all your stuff, or not having them available once the servers go offline.
Hell yeah. All right.
No particular reason.
Or just deciding after 3 years to delete your account if there hasn't been activity on it.
All right. After that little coughing fit that we all had, I've shown this before. This is done by lovely friend of the show, Heather. The art on this Snackbox Micro that I was have been
Hell
using.
yeah.
But I went to Evo with this 2 weeks ago, and we haven't done a normal episode since. So this is my
And
shout
you
out.
beat someone in a game that you had never played before with that.
So not with this. That was with controllers. But
darn.
I got custom buttons too. So the buttons now look like they've matched the color scheme. But I competed in Street Fighter and won a match by default and lost the other two. So I'll take the winning a match by default because the official record now shows that I am 1-2 and not 0-2. So, we take that. And then I beat someone in Invincible Versus to a degree that I feel bad about, having never played the game before. Did
you have any time to like warm up with your character, or you were just thrown in there?
Neither one of us had ever played the game before. It was just very clear that for being at
had played it before.
No, but for being at a fighting game convention, you generally expect the people at a fighting game convention, specifically a tournament. Like, there's not most people at Evo know how to play fighting games to some degree, right? Like there is.
Right.
It's a convention specifically for them. So you expect that, like, they know how to block and how to, like...
It would be like,
do a throw,
like if you played...
And they do a quarter circle. It was really bad. Like, I was pulling moves out, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm just like, I'm just doing quarter circles, man. It's working.
He was asking you questions?
No, he was just
about like
he knew what was happening partway through.
Okay.
And I was like, all right. And I got a tote bag for it. So
basically you bullied someone and got rewarded for it.
Great. Look, he got a tote bag too, so it's okay.
Okay. All right.
But they had like the AT&T booth with being like they basically had open fighting game things and were like, come up and fight someone else and you'll get free stuff. And so I went up and really embarrassed somebody. But yeah, otherwise Evo is super fun. Really, really good time in general. Heavily recommended if you are in the area when it's running. Because Vegas is expensive as all hell, unless you live in California, where it's very cheap to get to Vegas, and so it actually was not very expensive at all. But from anywhere else in the world, it's super expensive. So, yeah, fun time. The finals were super cool. My dad got really into Street Fighter's finale. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, that's the show. Go play some video games or something. There it is. There's the noise. He did remember.
Although honestly, I thought that was gonna be like right after the outro ends. That was gonna be like the last thing.
They also have these cool little models of some of the Fellowship.
Oh, you mean like right now?